Minister Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald. Good evening, everybody. Well, it's never a dull day, is it? Because we heard that at 3:30 this afternoon, Speaker Bercow was going to make a statement about MV3, as it's become known, the Meaningful Vote 3, which we were expecting the government to put to Parliament either tomorrow or on Wednesday. This is what Speaker Bercow said.
It has been strongly rumoured, though I have not received confirmation of this, that third and even possibly fourth meaningful vote motions will be attempted. If the government wishes to bring forward a new proposition that is neither the same nor substantially the same as that disposed of by the House on the 12th of March, this would be entirely in order. What the government cannot legitimately do is to resubmit to the House the same proposition or substantially the same proposition as that of last week, which was rejected by 149 votes.
So it's no MV3. The Prime Minister cannot bring that same deal, or European treaty as I prefer to call it. She can't bring it back before the House unless there is substantial change. And of course the only place she could get substantial change would be in Brussels. So I wonder, has Mr Bercow just made a no-deal Brexit a little bit more likely? Or are we headed inevitably for extension? Well, helping us through this, and indeed some of the historical quotes that the Speaker gave, is Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde, John Curtis. John, good evening to you.
Good evening, Nigel.
Now, I heard Speaker Bercow cite precedent, and I heard him talk about the 2nd of April, 1604. Remarkable. Hello?
Yes. Yeah, sure. Well, that's because, this goes back to historic arguments between the King and Parliament. And the point about this rule is to try to stop the government being able to basically dragoon Parliament and not enabling Parliament to express its will and for that will to be respected. But I think I need to correct your introduction slightly, Nigel. The honest truth is, of course, is that much in the same way as Yvette Cooper and Nigel Bowles attempted to circumvent the normal rules of the House of Commons by putting down amendments that would have suspended standing orders and enabled them to put forward legislation that would require the Prime Minister to invoke Article 50. Equally, it will be open to the government. If the government actually thinks that next week it could get its meaningful vote through, and the honest truth is that so far it's not clear that it could, but if it could, and if it could persuade a majority of MPs to suspend standing orders in order to allow such a vote to take place, then the government would still have a pathway through. So I think the honest truth is, at the end of the day, we're still back to the question as to whether or not the government has the votes in the House of Commons to get meaningful vote 3 through. And the mood so far seems to be that it doesn't. Maybe, whenever she comes back from the European Council, might either make it possible for Mr Bercow to say, well, this is not quite the same, or whether indeed it will change the mood, we'll have to see. I mean, so far as no Brexit is concerned, I mean, I take the following view, Nigel, and I think this is why those who have been looking forward to this as a possibility, I suspect the honest truth is that if indeed this government were to find itself heading towards no deal and was not bringing forward the legislation that would be required to avoid it, either by getting an extension out of the European Council or ultimately by revoking Article 50, then this government would lose the vote of confidence. I think there are enough Conservative MPs who, at the end of the day, faced with a choice between leaving without a deal and bring the government down on this issue, and then in all circumstances the government, which would then become a caretaker government, would have to put forward legislation to avoid no deal before we headed towards a general election. So I think the truth is I don't think that no deal has been a realistic possibility for quite some time, and the vote on Wednesday was simply affirmation of something that I think has long been evident.
But the legislation is still in place, John Curtis. You're saying that actually what would happen is the House of Commons would bring the government down, but
yes.
But would that automatically get rid of the legislation that's in place? I mean,
No, it wouldn't. As I've said, then under those circumstances, then the government becomes a caretaker government.
Yeah,
and it's then basically, would be honour bound to bring forward the legislation required either for an extension or for revoking Article 50 in order to avoid the no-deal Brexit. But the point is, once the government's lost a vote of no confidence, it doesn't disappear, but it becomes a caretaker government. It can no longer make major decisions on its own. But given the circumstances under which it's been brought down, there would then, I think, be an agreement between the government and the opposition that this is the step that should be taken. This is what usually happens in these situations. Government and opposition agree what needs to be done, what legislation needs to go through before Parliament is dissolved, and undoubtedly one of those pieces of legislation would have to be whatever we required to avoid a no deal.
Well, that would mean, John.
And I think this is the realpolitik of the situation. Right? And I think, again, although, as I said earlier, despite what John Bercow has said today, I mean, A, it's not a definitive ruling, but B, the truth is, if indeed, I mean, the argument in favour of John Bercow allowing a third vote would be if indeed, by not allowing the vote, he was obstructing the will of the House of Commons. Well, that inevitably, therefore, takes us back to the question of whether, at the end of the day, MPs are willing to make it clear that they do wish to express their view by suspending standing orders.
But if the European Summit on Thursday night says, we've had enough of this, we're really tired of being mucked about by the British, we're not going to give you an extension, it would only take one country to do that, then the choice that we'd face is, well, you could have Mrs May's deal, but equally, I mean, the House of Commons wouldn't vote, would it, to revoke Article 50? That's extremely unlikely.
It certainly won't. It certainly won't wish to do so. But I think the truth is, if the EU were to refuse us an extension, which I think, again, it's not going to. I don't think it's going to happen because it's long been obvious that Mrs May was not going to get us out on the 29th of March. It will probably take weeks to get the legislation through. Remember, it's not only got to go through the House of Commons, but through the House of Lords.
Yeah.
If the government only narrowly gets the meaningful vote through, it will always be at risk of suffering amendments to the legislation. It may not be able to get a programme motion through the House of Commons. And I think we can bet our bottom dollar that the House of Lords will indeed insist on putting a confirmatory vote into the bill, and there will be ping-pong between the Lords and the Commons. So for all of those reasons, it has been obvious for weeks that we were not going to leave on March the 29th, and it's taken ministers an awfully long time to be upfront about this. So even if Mrs May, gets around John Bercow or whatever, or comes back with something after the summit, and she does have a vote next week and she gets it through, we still need an extension. The difficulty, of course, that Mrs May has been placed in by the fact that she looked as though she cannot get a vote through in front of the Commons, and because of the failure of the Benn Amendment last week, that would have meant that on Wednesday we had indicative votes on what the alternatives would be, is that she's going to have to go to the European Council saying, you know what, I need an extension, but I don't know for how long, and I don't know for what. And that doesn't exactly put her in the strongest part.
No, it does not. Absolutely. John Curtis, thank you. Well, that was John Curtis, Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde, and he believes that if we did come up, towards the 29th, that actually Parliament would bring the government down rather than see us leave on no deal. So, I don't know. I mean, do you think that we got a bit closer today to a no deal? If you do, call me on 0345 6060 973. Maybe you think Brussels will offer big concessions. So actually, when the vote comes back, literally with days to go, they will have made a substantial change. That's how you feel. Text to 84850. Or maybe you think we're headed, as I've been saying since August of last year, was the most likely possibility for a long extension, in which case tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. Watch us on Facebook too, and you can comment there as well. Gordon Rayner from Telegraph said, if May can't hold a third vote and the EU refuse an extension, it could mean a no-deal Brexit. It could. It could also mean, and John Curtis mentioned it there, no Brexit at all if Parliament was to revoke Article 50. I simply cannot believe, given public opinion in this country, that is possible. What do you all make of the extraordinary events today? I'm going to go to Matthew, a new caller in Edinburgh. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Hello, Nigel. You're one of my heroes, so it's good to speak to you.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Today's events, it's just getting more and more depressing every day. For someone who values democracy, it seems like democracy is a dying idea. And I think this was all the plan from the outset. Cameron bowed out with these principled optics for the media. We had a stable and strong May. Remainer ushered in. She had a quick working lunch with the boys from Goldman Sachs. Delays, unrealistic deals, delays. We've had this crushingly repetitive and depressing daily news cycle for 2 years that's just sapped the will and the interest of the public. Now they push it to the deadline. Everyone's scared witless, and they're going to pass the establishment. The financial and political elite are going to pass the deal they wanted in the first place.
So you think, Matthew, then they will, as John Curtis hinted, they will at some point next week manage through parliamentary procedure to overturn standing orders, and you think in the end her deal gets passed, do you?
It's looking likely.
Well, I tell you what, had this gone to the vote on Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm convinced she'd have lost. I'm absolutely convinced she would have lost. As to where we are after this next European summit, Matthew, is anybody's guess. You may be right, but I tell you what, none of us actually know. Matthew, thank you very much for the call. And point Matthew makes that sort of people are gradually being worn down. I think that actually has been one of the Remainers' tactics, just wear people down. And then in the end, the political class can get their way. And yet, Matthew may be getting depressed by it. Overall, seems to me, you look at the polls, actually, Brexit's still very, very strong. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:15, and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
The House of Commons Speaker John Bercow has blocked a third meaningful vote on Theresa May's Brexit deal unless the wording is substantially changed. Dutch police say the suspect in this morning's tram shooting in Utrecht has now been arrested. 3 people died and 5 were injured. The Health Secretary says he's worried about the support reality TV shows offer contestants after they're famous, following the death of a former Love Island star. LBC weather, cloudy across the UK tonight, along with some patchy rain, mainly over in the west, clearer elsewhere, a low of 4 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm J-Louise Knight, and the clockwise M25 really crawling on the northern stretch. Clockwise from 22, that's London Coney, through to an accident after Potters Bar at 24. One lane is closed. Now, because of the congestion on the main carriageway, the clockwise entry slip at junction 23 is shut. That's to help ease congestion on the main carriageway. So that means you can't join the clockwise M25 from the South Mims roundabout. The northbound M23 is heavy from Gatwick Airport at 9 up towards the M25, and a serious accident in Northolt has shut the A312 Mandeville Road near Northolt Station. There are long queues back onto the A40 all the way to the Denham roundabouts, as well as delays on the Parkway from the Willow Tree roundabout.
LBC. Does it matter to you how your money's invested? Think about it. You've got your own values, but do the people who invest your money share them? With a Wealthify stocks and shares ISA, you can put your money into an ethical plan. Just tell us how you want to invest. Are you cautious, adventurous, or somewhere in between? And start your Wealthify Ethical ISA today. Easy. For more information, download the app or visit wealthify.com. With investing, capital is at risk and you could get back less than you put in.
Set for Life is the new game from the National Lottery where you can win 10 grand every month for 30 years. So now you can jump into June, make October a scream, and stick a rocket up November. Make every month amazing. Play new Set for Life Mondays and Thursdays. Amazing starts here. Prize may be capped. Rules, procedures and game-specific rules apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Thanks to people giving monthly donations, Cancer Research UK are funding thousands of life-saving research projects. So people like Alim can get back to enjoying family bike rides, birthdays, and games of football. As a dad, I understand just how precious those moments are. So, on behalf of all the families that have been helped, thank you. Thank you. See the impact of monthly donations by searching Cancer Research UK because of you. Together, we will beat cancer.
You know your funk from your punk, from your Gregorian monk. But do you know your pension options? PensionWise is a service set up by the government to provide free, impartial guidance about your pension pot. If you're over 50, call 0800 144 8944 to book your free telephone or face-to-face appointment. PensionWise. Get to know your options.
Only Vodafone brings you a 2-year red entertainment plan with the stunning new Samsung Galaxy S10 and S10 Plus. Choose from Amazon Prime Video, Spotify Premium, and Now TV Entertainment Pass, or Sky Sports Mobile TV. That's 2 years on us. Perfect with the endless Infinity O display. Go online or in-store today. A galaxy of entertainment can now be yours. The future's exciting. Ready? Vodafone. Available on Red Entertainment plans. Entertainment renews with charge after 24 months unless cancelled. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/Red Entertainment.
It's time. Time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. With stunning HD video, crisp audio, and instant wireless sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Calling all hard-working minicab drivers. Are you the very best London has to offer? Yes? Then Greyhound Cars, one of South London's oldest and most progressive minicab companies, want to speak to you. Spend less time travelling to jobs and more time earning money. With a very busy day circuit, we have high demand and are now offering great bonuses and mileage rates for the very best drivers. You could pay as low as 10% commission. Start today at greyhoundcars.co.uk.
Your business has come this far, but now's your time to soar into the skies of spectacular with a fast, affordable Funding Circle business loan. With decisions in as little as 24 hours and a dedicated account manager, there's no waiting around. So join the thousands of businesses who have taken out a Funding Circle loan and help your business fly. Apply today at fundingcircle.com. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. T's and C's apply.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
So in grand theatrical style, Speaker Bercow gets up this afternoon, talks about precedent going back to the 2nd of April 1604 and says the government cannot bring back its meaningful vote Mark III because it's already been asked. And Erskine May, which is the sort of Bible of parliamentary law, says you can't do that. So when it suits him, parliamentary precedent is great. When it doesn't suit him, he stands up and changes it. I mean, it is astonishing that this man has got this much power and yet is seen to be so partial. The government, of course, desperate to get, and we keep calling it Mrs May's deal. It's not Mrs May's deal, it's a European treaty. And so desperate are they that the latest trick is they've been telling Tory MPs, Leavers, ERGers, you know the type. They've been telling them that if they vote for the deal, Mrs May's chief Brexit negotiator, the civil servant Ollie Robbins, will quit. So what an incentive. He's just produced the worst deal in history, but if you vote for it, he'll quit. I don't see where the incentive is in that. And anyway, as the Mail on Sunday pointed out a few weeks ago, he's been interviewed by a big US investment bank and will be leaving for big money anyway. So that one doesn't really work. Thursday night suddenly becomes an enormous event. You know, you're going to have prime ministers and presidents of 28 countries in that room. Equally, you'll also have Tusk, you'll also have Barnier will be there, you will also have, of course, Juncker who will be there. And it seems to me that Mrs May has got to try and extract some massive concession from them. But look, as I told you, regular listeners, when I met Mr Barnier last Tuesday, the treaty is now bound. It's got a pretty cover. As far as they're concerned, it's done and dusted. There are not going to be any big concessions from Brussels on Thursday night. Forget it. And when she says, well, I want an extension, they're going to say, what for? They're also going to realise that when she's gone, the next British Prime Minister is going to be a lot more Eurosceptic than she is, because 60% or so of Tory voters now want to leave on no deal. I do not think that her getting extension is a mere formality. I think there is a risk of other countries vetoing it. A risk, in fact, of some who are EU fanatics saying, we don't want Britain mucking this up. We've got a European army to build. And we want to expand. We'll have to see. I think a no-deal Brexit came a little bit closer today. I still think extension, despite what I've just said. I still think extension is the most likely. I just wonder at what price it will come. Lisa is calling from Hampshire. Good evening, Lisa.
Oh, good evening.
So, what's going to happen? And do you approve of John Bercow's intervention?
No, I don't. I think that he, along with all the other political elite, have been, wanting something like this to happen all along, and the whole Brexit process, has been potentially sabotaged by all of them.
Does that include Mrs. May, Lisa?
It's hard to tell, but I definitely think they had the wrong person in charge.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, really, the person really in charge has been Ollie Robbins, hasn't it? I mean, he's the guy that wrote the documents, helped write the documents, accepted the documents, made the concessions. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit with you. I like to think that despite being a Remainer, the Prime Minister started off with good intentions. I mean, unless the Lancaster House speech was her just lying through her teeth. And I just don't believe that somehow. But somehow she's been beaten down by the process. What do you think's going to happen, Lisa?
Well, sadly, in my heart of hearts, I don't think it is going to happen, even though we will be appalled if it doesn't. I will never vote again, nor will my husband, and we're also going to be joining you on the march this weekend. We've never been on any kind of march in our lives.
No.
But, I mean, it just leaves us with incredible sadness. We fought so hard for this. I voted for Jimmy Goldsmith back in the 90s, so I felt really strongly about this all my adult life.
Yes.
I really mind how the European Parliament and the Council and the Commission will conduct themselves. And I think it's a desperate betrayal.
I'll make you a promise, Lisa. We will get Brexit, even if it's not on the 29th of March. The genie is out of the bottle. We are going to win, Lisa.
Good.
All right, well, good.
We all need to fight for it.
Well, we're going to have to, because if we feel beaten down by this, then they will have won. And that's the point, I think. Lisa, thank you for your call. And millions feeling like Lisa. Opinion polling showing millions of people saying they may never vote again. Gareth says on Facebook, what a shambles, these politicians. They've got a lot to answer for. Martin says, revoke Article 50 for the will of the people. Martin, I don't know what planet you're on or where you live, but I can promise you that the one thing that the people of this country do not want is Article 50 revoked, cancelled, gotten rid of. And I've got other people saying, well, is there a risk now? Is there a risk that Article 50 gets revoked by Parliament? I do not believe Parliament will do. I tell you what, if Article 50 got revoked, you would see those two political parties that are there now would be literally destroyed by the revocation of Article 50, and that's why they won't do it. Paddy takes the view that Brexit's no bad thing, but our leadership have got about it the wrong way. Well, I know. And Terry says the Tory Remainers will now delay Brexit. It was always their trump card. Terry, I still think delay is the favourite. I just fear at what price will it be? Really, really worries me. Darren says, a ray of hope. Bravo to Bercow. So funny. People who hate John Bercow tonight are saying bravo to Bercow. The deal is bad. The EU should reject an extension, then no deal. Let's get on with it. So there's optimism on both sides here. There are leavers who think we're much closer to no deal. The Remainers who think this now means a guaranteed 2-year extension and a second referendum. Although, I make the point again, there's no great public appetite for a second referendum. Brian is calling from somewhere in France. Good evening, Brian.
Good evening, Nigel. I have spoken to you before.
Yes, I know.
And I'd like to say, before I go any further, you're the only person that I think brings democracy to Britain. The only person who respects it. I don't know anybody else that does.
Well, I think Boris does. I think Boris does. And I think quite a few of them do.
Very, very few. But what I'd like to say to you, I don't think this is a deal or a treaty. I think it's a surrender document.
Well, yes,
my father fought or served in the Second World War. My grandfather served in the First World War. And they'd be turning the grave to think we're going to capitulate, to pay them a lot of money, have no trade deals at all. It's really outstanding. There are a couple of things I'd like to ask and clarify with you, if I may.
Yep, far away.
One is, some time ago, they said, I think it was Cameron, that they were going to charge $1.7 billion for underestimated on drugs and prostitution in Britain. And I remember him standing up and saying, I'm not going to pay this.
That's right. He banged the table. I will not be... And then he did.
Oh, that was never publicised.
Yeah, Brian. And just to be clear, folks, on drugs and prostitution, the UK, the size of the UK GDP was upgraded to allow those two activities to be part of it. But no, Brian, that is true. Brian, do you think
there's another thing that I'd like to ask you as well?
One more
Everybody goes on and says that the pound dropped because when we Brexited or voted to Brexit. Can you confirm that although the Chancellor and the Bank of England said that interest rates will shoot up, we'll have massive unemployment, we'll have recession that would make the 2008 recession look small, can you confirm he devalued the pound by 75 billion and also he cut interest rates by half?
Well, they did cut interest rates, you're absolutely right, and that did help the pound to go down further. Also, Brian, the short-term speculative market in the pound had anticipated it was going to be a Remain vote, so a lot of short-term speculators got burnt. But, Brian, the real issue is the pound fell from 2009. It fell very, very heavily. It fell a lot more way before Brexit than it did after Brexit. Brian, thank you. And thousands of you sending me messages. I bet the EU will be upset if Mrs Merkel's deal can't be voted on, says Simon. Well, I think, Simon, that actually is about right. Please, no one think, when you hear it called Mrs May's deal, no one think we wrote it. We didn't. It's another European treaty. They wrote it. We agreed to it. They've bound it up in leather. They've got their treaty. They assume we'd pass it, and they really are very surprised that we haven't. And I don't believe, whatever tricks or manoeuvres happen after this summit, I don't believe, even if it's brought back 12 hours before we're due to leave, I do not believe this Parliament is ever going to vote for this document. And in my opinion, nor should they. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:30 in time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
The Speaker of the Commons has blocked Theresa May's EU withdrawal deal from being voted on by MPs for a third time in its current form. John Bercow says if the Prime Minister's agreement comes back without substantial changes, then it would breach parliamentary rules. Number 10 had suggested there would be another vote, but only if Mrs May had a realistic prospect of winning it. The suspect in a shooting on a tram in the Netherlands, which has left 3 people dead, has now been arrested. Several others were injured in the city of Utrecht this morning. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte has called the attack disgusting. Police are looking through CCTV after 3 teenagers died at a St Patrick's Day party in County Tyrone. It's believed the 16 and 17-year-olds were killed because of a crowd crush at a hotel in Cookstown last night. LBC weather quite cloudy across the UK this evening, along with some patchy rain, mainly in the west. Windier further north, clearer over the south and east, a low of 4 degrees.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7. LBC.
Jacob Rees-Mogg here, taking your calls on LBC. Mark is in Palmer's Green.
I'm a Brexiteer through and through. If you said to me, Mark, you have 2 options, Mrs May's treaty or Remain, I would choose Remain as we are. How are you going to vote?
I think Mrs May's deal, because it's legally out, is better. No deal is better than a bad deal, but a bad deal is better than remaining in the European Union in the hierarchy of deals.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With Xero, get your business digital ready with Xero accounting software.
LBC.
Word in the woods is that 3 little pigs are looking to sell their homes quick. They seem to be in a spot of bother with the big bad wolf called Rick.
Come out, little piggies!
So they spoke to the friendly team at Property Rescue, who can offer a guaranteed sale in as little as 48 hours at a fair price and a cash advance if you need one. Fast forward to living happily ever after. Visit propertyrescue.co.uk. Property Rescue. Fast forward to sold.
Hello, hi. I bought this gym membership as I wanted to get fit, but I just read that dad bods are in right now, so I think I might just stick with what I've got. So, can I get my money, please?
Money for a gym membership you don't use? Not so smarty. Money off your next phone bill for mobile data you don't use? Smarty. Plans starting from £6.25 per month for 1 gig of data and unlimited calls and texts. Call exclusions apply. Join today at smarty.co.uk. Simple, honest mobile.
I know who designed Princess Di's wedding dress. I know who phoned home. I know how to do a silly walk. And I know which part of the room you should never put baby in. But I don't know my state pension.
Find out more about your state pension and how much it should be. Get to know your pension Visit yourpension.gov.uk.
Let's go through the numbers.
Yes, with the Vonage Business Phone System, you can make unlimited calls to UK landlines, UK mobiles, and even international numbers, all for one low price.
Unlimited calls. Amazing.
Shall we?
Okay, let's do this.
Make Vonage part of your entourage. A business-ready phone system with unlimited call plans from £12 a month. To find out more, go to vonage.co.uk. Unlimited calling applies to standard UK landline numbers. Terms apply.
Vonage. Sounds like good business to me.
Give your Ford a spring in its step with a Ford Motorcraft service for just £149 RRP. Now easier to book than ever with our new online service booking system. And save £10 on any Ford service when you quote Ford 10. Book now at ford.co.uk or visit your local participating dealer.
Recommended promotional price. Not available with other Ford promotions. Terms and conditions apply.
For hundreds of years, Indian food has been about sharing great food with the people you love. For over 5 years, Manjal Restaurant have brought North and South India together in the heart of London. And due to its success, now we've come to Chigwell Loughton. Experience the essence of India and make memories with Manjal. Book now at manjalrestaurant.com.
Set for Life is the new game from the National Lottery where you can win 10 grand every month for 30 years. So now you can jump into June, make October a scream, and stick a rocket up November. Make every month amazing. Play new Set for Life Mondays and Thursdays. Amazing starts here. Prize may be capped. Rules, procedures and game-specific rules apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Do you want to give your kids a head start? Think about it. Are you all set up to help with uni fees or a house deposit? No? Then it's time to Wealthify. Start a junior ISA with Wealthify before the 5th of April and you can build them a tax-free nest egg. And it's easy. Just invest a lump sum or pay in monthly and Wealthify do the rest. For more information, download the app or visit wealthify.com today. With investing, capital is at risk and you could get back less than you put in.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Well, more drama in Parliament as Speaker Bercow says the government cannot put its meaningful vote back before the House because it's done it already and parliamentary precedent says you can't do it. And some people say that means we're more likely to leave with no deal. Others think it means there's going to be a very long extension and we could even be forced to do a second referendum. No one quite knows. Certainly John Bercow at the centre of much of this. But one story that we've stopped covering, we've simply don't talk about it anymore, is what happens every Saturday in Paris. You may have missed it. Last Saturday, reports of really very serious violence in Paris. And today, the Prime Minister, Edouard Philippe, has decided he's going to crack down on it. Well, to find out what's being proposed and what it might lead to is LBC's correspondent in Paris, Peter Allen. Peter, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel.
Tell me, I mean, I've been to your apartment. You sort of overlook the area where the yellow vests marched through. How serious were the events of last Saturday?
Absolutely appalling, Nigel, last Saturday. It all started on the Champs-Élysées. Pretty much every business there, from all the high-end shops and restaurants to banks and other businesses, were all either torched or had their windows smashed in or were looted. Terrible violence, and it spread right across the city. I can tell you that a police station about 30 seconds from where my office is was attacked, and a police car was set alight outside. I mean, it was extraordinary, and as you say, very little coverage outside France.
Yes, I mean, I guess, was it week 17 or something like that of these yellow vest protests?
Indeed, week 18, in fact.
Week 18, I'm behind the curve. But barely registered here. So, Peter, tell us what Prime Minister Edouard Philippe has decided to do.
Well, he's doing something which may well backfire. He has said that he's banning yellow vest protests this Saturday, would you believe?
Wow.
After 18 weeks, he thinks he can just say to these thousands of hugely angry people, oh, just stay out of Paris and we won't have any trouble. So it's a very difficult thing to do. There's a precedent. Back in 2014, François Hollande's government tried to ban a pro-Palestinian rally at the time of a Gaza conflict. And of course, what happened, they all turned up anyway. There was mass rioting. There was huge trouble. So the precedent doesn't look good for the Macron government.
Difficult to work out what the yellow vest demands are these days.
At the moment, it's anti-establishment. Their specific demand at the moment is very, very simple. They want Emmanuel Macron to resign. I must say also for Brexit banners.
This is incredibly French, isn't it, Peter? It really is.
Yes, it is. They always want the head of state to go because, of course, he's the representative of the nation. He's somebody who represents the French establishment, and they're sick of the Paris establishment. They think they're too greedy. They think they've got too much money, so they want him to go as the representative of this establishment.
So this Saturday really is then going to be, by the sounds of it, I mean, a huge show. I mean, what can they? I mean, can they literally arrest thousands of people? I mean, what can they do?
They can't. This is always the problem. I mean, what I noticed on Saturday, there were plenty of police on the street, but they're always about 5-6 minutes behind the Gilets jaunes. The Gilets jaunes are very, very clever strategically. They move through Paris extremely fast. Champs-Élysées is a very, very wide avenue. They cause trouble at one end. The police arrive. They move to the other end and start causing trouble then. Then they slip off into side streets. They're all marshalled by men on motorbikes often, I noticed on Saturday. And they really are making the police look pretty stupid at times.
Extraordinary story. Peter, can I please book you for my Sunday show coming up this Sunday? Because I think this could be a very dramatic day in Paris on Saturday.
Absolutely, Nigel.
Thank you very much.
Nigel, I'll be there.
That was Peter Allen, LBC's correspondent in Paris. Isn't it amazing that in a city not too far away from us, those incredible scenes of violence barely got reported in this country? Back to Speaker Bercow, who got up and gave his great performance today. I can't quite work out why the son of an Essex taxi driver now sounds like Sir John Gielgud, but there we are. He seems to be rather puffed up with his own self-importance. I'm not a fan of Speaker Bercow. I never, ever have been. But perhaps what he did today was right. There we are. I've conceded something. He got something right. Brian is calling from Merseyside. Brian, Bercow's decision, what does it mean for the Brexit process in your view?
Well, I don't really know, Nigel, to be honest with you. I can't work out whether he's coming or going. One minute I like the guy. Next minute I don't like the guy. And I can't work out. I think this means that we're going to be leaving without a deal.
Do you?
Well, I certainly hope so, Nige.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting, Brian, tonight is I'm getting leavers saying, I hope it means we can leave with no deal. I'm getting Remainers saying, I hope it means we're going to either revoke Article 50 or have a long extension. Brian, I think there is a slightly increased chance of no deal, but I don't wish to dash your hopes too much. But I think what Mrs May will be asking for on Thursday night is a concession. That conversation will last about 30 seconds. I think they're going to go for extension, Brian.
Do you think so?
I do.
How long do you think the extension will be, Nige?
Well, there's no point in having a short one because there wouldn't really be time. So I'm guessing they're going to kick the can down the road for a year or two. I mean, how will that make you feel?
Well, do you know what? After all this, Nige, and I'm sure you agree with me on this one, I just want what's best for Britain. And that, for me, to be honest with you, I voted Remain. I now think leave, but do you know what I think? I think we should leave on the best terms possible. And if that means we have to wait a bit longer, Nige.
Yep.
For our friends, they are our friends in Europe. I'm sure you agree with me, Nigel. I know that you have fun, and you have fun over there, in Parliament and all that, and taking the Michael out and all that.
I
but
do.
In reality, deep down, if you dig down deep enough, Nigel, I'm sure you found a little bit of love in your heart somewhere.
Brian, I love Europe. I love the Europeans. I'm not so keen on some of the bosses of the European Union. But Brian, no, listen, thank you for that point of view. And Brian taking the view that actually, if it takes a bit more time or we get the right deal, it's no bad thing. And there are quite a lot of people that take that view. The problem is we've already been 3 years and we've got nowhere. Why do we think in the next 2 or 3 years we're going to get anywhere? And that's why I think the clean break is the best way forward. Michael is a new caller from Swindon. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Nigel.
So, what has Mr. Bercow done?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I think it seems like he may have actually done us a favour, to be perfectly honest. Not that he'd actually wanted to do that. He may have done it by default. Because we all know his political leanings, which is a shame that we have a speaker that isn't politically unbiased.
A shame, Michael. It's not a shame. It's a national disgrace.
Well, it's the same as the MPs that we have at the moment. Was it 70% of constituencies voted to leave, and yet our MPs that are actually supposed to be representing us don't seem to want to do so.
Well, that's where we are.
It's a complete crime. And Bercow may have done us a favour. To be perfectly honest, Theresa May's deal is an absolute disaster. But there again, is it Theresa May's deal? How could she have possibly have cobbled something together that totally favours the EU? It seems to be completely bizarre.
A policy of appeasement, Michael. Theresa the appeaser, right throughout the process, and this is what you finish up with. Would you, Michael, are you one of those that hopes we get a clean break?
Most definitely, for the simple reason, our politicians are going on about we need a deal, this, that, and the other. The EU cannot give us a deal. They're fighting for survival.
They are.
We are one of their biggest cash cows.
Yep.
Without our cash injection, they are in serious trouble. The one thing they cannot do is give us a deal that's of benefit to us. If they give us a deal that's of benefit to us, then they've got to give possibly deals to other countries that think, oh, we've had enough of them and the way that they're screwing us, literally. So, they cannot possibly give us a deal. And all these politicians holding out saying, we've got to wait for a deal. We can't have a clean break.
They're never going to give us a deal. It's never going to happen. Michael, you're absolutely right. Yanis Varoufakis, the former Greek finance minister, told us this at the beginning. Michael, thank you for your call. Just a thought. If Mrs May can't bring back MV3, does that mean the likes of Subri, etc., can't bring back the vote, the loser's vote, a second referendum that's been defeated already? Well, if you listen to Bercow today, they can't bring back a second referendum. They also can't bring back the attempt to take control of Parliament out of the hands of the executive, namely the government, and give it to the MPs. Twice that's been attempted. That question was asked. Bercow may well have done believers an even bigger favour than he realised. This is the Nigel Farage Show. It's 6:45. Time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
The House of Commons Speaker John Bercow's blocked a third meaningful vote on Theresa May's Brexit deal unless the wording is substantially changed. Dutch police say the suspect in this morning's tram shooting in Utrecht has now been arrested. 3 people died and 5 were injured. The Health Secretary says he's worried about the support reality TV shows offer contestants after they're famous, following the death of a former Love Island star. LBC weather cloudy across the UK tonight, along with some patchy rain, mainly in the west, clearer elsewhere, a low of 4 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm J-Louise Knight in the clockwise M25, still very slow from London Coney, which is junction 22, to the scene of an accident between Potters Bar at 24 and 25 for the A10 and Enfield. Now, to try and ease the queues, the clockwise entry slip road is shut at junction 23 coming from the South Mims roundabout. If you're heading south on the M3, expect queues just after junction 3 for bag shots as a car's broken down. A serious accident in Northolt's closed the A312 Manville Road near Northolt Station. There are long queues back onto the A40 to the Denham roundabout, and the A1 Watford Way is queuing out of town from Five Ways Corner to roadworks at Mill Hill Circus.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
I'm not in the business of invoking precedent, said Speaker Bercow a few weeks ago. Today, because it suited him, he invoked precedent. Grollocks to Bercow.
Ian Dale on LBC.
Working on the train? Emma Willis, founder and designer at Emma Willis, loves it.
I've spent a huge amount of my business time on the train, but I still enjoy that incredibly precious time. When I get on the train in the morning, you're full of energy, and that's a really, really good work time.
Arrive ready for business with Great Western Railway, who offer free Wi-Fi on board most services. To find out more and for your chance to win a business bundle, including a laptop and smartwatch, visit lbc.co.uk.
If, like me, you own a micro business or run a charity with a van or minibus that's polluting the air, you might want to listen up. I've just been told about the Mayor of London's new scrappage scheme. They said I could receive £3,500 if I scrap my van, which I could then use to trade up to a new Euro 6 vehicle. Or £6,000 if I scrap my van, which includes £2,500 towards the running costs if I go electric. I said to them, if this is going to help improve the toxic air for my children, then I'm in. So, when I get home, I'm going to search scrappage scheme to see if I'm eligible. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Your company's doing pretty well. Your tax position's okay. So what's keeping you awake at night?
To face the future with confidence, talk to Vision Consulting. We've expanded from Gants Hill to the Gherkin, with clients from the fishmonger to the multi-million-pound property investment company. And our growth as a firm of chartered accountants and registered auditors is based on our passion for our clients' business.
Have confidence in your accountant. See visionconsulting.co.uk. ISAs, they're all pretty. But what if there was one that was more...
That's what you get from Vitality. It's an ISA, but with more oomph. Invest in Vitality funds, and on top of any returns, we'll give you bigger and bigger boosts every 5 years. Up to 15% over 25 years. Apply for a new ISA by April the 5th, and we'll also give you full cashback on your product charge for the first year. Just search Vitality Invest ISA. Vitality. Positively different. Capital at risk. Minimum investment and T's and C's apply.
Where are we?
The New Forest.
But I thought we only had the Mini Countryman booked for a test drive. We can't stay here.
We're not going to.
This isn't exactly what I meant.
Relax. With Mini's new 48-hour test drive, you can use the Countryman for exactly what it's built for. Exploring. Plus, it's an SUV, the largest Mini in the range, so you can pack loads more in.
Great. Where next?
Well, you know how you've always wanted to try kayaking?
The Mini Countryman 48-hour test drive. Visit mini.co.uk to book yours. Mini. Who's in? Test drive subject to status and availability. Terms and conditions apply. Participating Mini retailers only.
So much confusion. This deal or that deal. Why can't renewals be simple? It does sound like a bargain. What if you're being ripped off? Confused.com guaranteed to beat your renewal quote, helping you rise above the clamour of comparison sites. It's that easy. Beat your renewal quote guarantee, or you'll get the difference in an extra £20. Don't be confused. Be confused.com. Full T's and C's online. Single annual policies only.
If you're a frequent traveller in premium, business and first class, is your travel agent charging you too much? Switching to Bright Sun Travel's 24/7 tailor-made travel services means you could pay less on flights and hotels and enjoy free benefits like early and late checkout, room upgrades and hotel credits. Conditions apply. Visit brightsun.co.uk. Atoll protected.
Leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag #FarageOnLBC.
Some agreement to my point that I made before the news. Nigel, the fact that Bercow has stopped the same motion being tabled means that the Remainers cannot table the same motions again. So yes, in effect, he may well have shot himself in the foot. Has a no-deal Brexit got a bit more likely? It has. A lot's going to rest, you know, on this summit on Thursday. If they say, we don't want an extension, we've had enough of your games, just get thee gone, and it only needs one of the other 27 to do that, and there will be no extension, then Parliament would face the ultimate choice. In the days leading up to the 29th of March, are they going to get us out on the current legislation or revoke and stop Brexit completely? And I think there would be such catastrophic implications for Parliament if they did that. And I sort of, John Curtis earlier said, no, there'll never be a majority for that. But I don't know. I think you'd find actually quite a lot of Labour MPs in the end would say, if I'm seen to stop Brexit, we will never, ever get a vote again. And I saw this on Saturday. You know, I was up in Sunderland and going through some of those seaside towns, and people staunch Labour areas saying, you know, if we don't get Brexit and if Labour are seen to be complicit in this, we will never vote for them again. And do you know what? They meant it. Andrew is a new caller from Redruth in Cornwall. Good evening, Andrew.
Good evening, Nigel. Nice to speak to you.
Good to speak to you. Welcome to the show. So, what do you reckon is the impact of Bercow's decision?
The impact of Bercow's decision, most likely, in the House, with the background that they've got, is not very much is going to change, I don't think. I'd love to think it would push through towards no deal, but all he's really done is actually do his job properly. And I'm not his biggest fan, to be fair.
No, nor am I. Nor am I.
But, I mean, he's literally just made the appropriate decision for the situation he's in, for once. And that can't be a bad thing. Where it goes from here, of course, I mean, I'm with the no-deal lobby. We should now go towards no deal.
That is a growing...
But the House will so frustrate that, and the machine is so much in play to move us towards a long extension, I think that I find it very unlikely.
And what does a long extension mean, Andrew? Do voters see delay equaling betray?
Most definitely. I mean, especially I'm from Redruth in Cornwall. Our local MP was a junior minister until not long ago.
Yes.
Within the last month, George has been...
George Eustace, yeah?
George Eustace, yeah. No,
I got that.
No deal's better than a bad deal. And then he was on TV the very next day saying, I want Norway Plus.
Yes.
And then he was on the national news the week after saying, I'm going to resign because I can't possibly support this deal. And then the next time it came up, he voted for the deal.
Isn't it great to have an MP that's solid and you know exactly where they stand, Andrew? You must be so proud. You really must.
We are so proud. And I'm joking aside, I'm one of these people that's voted blue all but once right through my life, and I'm nearly 50.
Yes.
I know an awful lot of people who just feel betrayed by him. And to be fair, he doesn't just have two stances, he has about four stances. We say he has more faces than our town clock, which is actually on the corner of the lovely Wetherspoons. You should visit it.
Well, I should. I know the boss of Wetherspoons, and it's good. No, I mustn't advertise their brand. Andrew, thank you very much indeed for your call. Mrs. May is once, twice, 3 times a meaningful vote lady. Yes, Laurie, thank you. We all know the Lionel Richie song. Let's go to Karen, a new caller in Milton Keynes. Good evening, Karen.
Good evening. Hi.
Hi there. So what do you think? Did John Bercow get it right today, Karen?
Absolutely. I could not believe what was happening. I had to double check, double hear, double read it. I think it's an absolutely brilliant thing. And just like yourself, I think it's a chance nearer to the no deal. And I'm very, very pleased about that because that's the way it should be. So I'm really pleased about that. There's been some talk about he did it for this reason and it's going to overturn and it's not. It's really for the Remainers. And with respect to one of your first callers who said about David Cameron doing that to twirl it around to make it a Remain in the end, I don't think either have done that. I think firstly with David Cameron, he thought it was going to be in the favour of staying with the EU. And John Bercow's just gone by the law, so that's what he had to do. That's his job. So I'm really pleased about that. The only thing I can't quite work out, if you don't mind saying, is this regarding the no deal. When it's not a treaty, it's not a deal. It was an ultimatum. If after 2 years or whatever it actually has been, Theresa May couldn't sort it out properly, that's the general way.
Yeah. I mean, Article 50, Karen, says that you've got up to 2 years. Doesn't need to be 2 years. Could be 6 months. Which would have been much better, wouldn't it? But you've got an up to 2 year period, and at the end of the 2 years, you leave with a deal or without a deal. But there is a little rider in there that says an extension is possible. So, Karen, I have to say to you, I don't want to disappoint you. I think no deal's got a little bit closer, but I still think extension is the most likely, probably at quite a big price to us.
Oh dear. All right. Thank you for listening.
Let's hope I'm wrong, Karen, and thank you for the call. Brian on Facebook says, definitely not. There is no mandate for a no-deal Brexit. Well, Brian, there are opinion polls that suggest it's now the most popular option, but there is still a piece of legislation in place. Let us go to John in Royston in Hertfordshire. John, what did you make of Speaker Bercow's action today?
I think it's the most appalling thing I've ever heard.
Okay.
That a single man, a single person should override Parliament is the most outrageous thing I've ever heard.
Well, he's overridden the government, hasn't he? And he cited, Erskine May. He cited a historical precedent. He's shown that this has happened over a dozen times over the centuries. So perhaps he had a point, John.
Well, yeah, because we have such an outdated parliamentary system, yes, he can bring up all these, past, 300 years ago, this and that happened. But we're in a modern world.
Oh, John, come on.
Not only the government, but the whole of Parliament.
Oh, come on, John. I mean, when you heard him talking about the 2nd of April, 1604, surely you thought that was relevant.
As irrelevant as the House of Lords, I'd say.
Well, I have to say, I think you and I could agree on a lot more than we're going to disagree on. Look, I think, if he's put the line down, then provided he sticks to that for the next 2 weeks or however many months this drags on for, that might of itself be a good thing, John.
Do you think so?
I do, because it'll stop people bringing back repeated requests for second referendums. I should be very pleased about that.
But would Theresa May and the rest of the Conservative Party be trying to push this for a third vote if they didn't think they'd get a majority?
Well, I tell you what, John, they got it wrong the last two times, and they were going to lose on Tuesday or Wednesday. John, I thank you. Well, fascinating day. Back again tomorrow at 6. 10 o'clock, it's Tom Swarbrick, but it's Ian Dale now.
Nigel, are you supporting what John Bercow's done?
I'm struggling here, but I'm saying for once, I think he probably did the right thing. What I do think is makes it very, very difficult for things like the Benn Amendment to come back in the next 10 days.
But it also makes a 2-year extension of Article 50 more likely, which could thwart Brexit altogether, which is surely your big fear.
I think Mrs May's treat is my biggest fear. Because that's the worst of all worlds, will lead us to years of misery. One thing I have to say, I'd rather risk extension than accept that absolutely dreadful treaty.
Well, my view is if we get 70% of what we want, it's better than getting 0% of what we want.
I don't think it's anything like 70%.
And that's where we're heading. Anyway, we're going to have to disagree on that.
We do.
Nigel, thank you very much indeed. Well, coming up in the news hour, we are, of course, going to lead off on what John Bercow has announced in the House of Commons today. We'll also